Welcome to the Bioeconomic Clinic at drchicks.com. I am Dr. Chicks, your lead diagnostician for today's session.
And I am Chicky, your chief analytical guide.
Today's operation is a deep dive into the Week 1 Masterclass. We are officially scrubbing in to perform, well, what we call mindset surgery.
Right, mindset surgery.
Yeah, but before we get into all the clinical terms, I really want to talk directly to you, the person listening to this right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you have ever, found yourself staring at your laptop at like 2 in the afternoon, totally paralyzed.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. Just wondering why pushing your business forward feels like dragging a massive boulder up a steep hill.
Yeah.
I need you to hear this.
Yeah, it is so crucial to establish this baseline right away.
Exactly. You need to know that this is not a moral failing on your part. You are not lazy.
No, not at all.
I do not lack discipline.
Yeah.
What you are experiencing, that sheer overwhelming exhaustion, it's actually a biological disease.
It really is. It's the result of an environmental mismatch.
Precisely. And today, we are decoding two conflicting states of existence. The puddle pathology versus the river company.
Ooh, I love those terms.
We are going to show you how to replace a stagnant condition, which we call mechanistic ossification, with a thriving state of biomimetic adaptation.
And we are grounding this entire operation in the legendary research of the late corporate strategist, Geus.
Yes, his work is just foundational for this.
It completely reframes how we think about work and survival. I mean, to understand why modern companies and the individuals building them burn out so spectacularly,
Right.
we first have to examine the disease itself. Mechanistic ossification is the clinical term we use here.
And it sounds intense, right? Ossification.
Yeah, like turning into bone. It sets in when humans operate inside rigid, outdated systems that basically treat living, breathing entities as if they were, well, unfeeling mechanical constructs.
And the data on this is just staggering. I mean, Geus spent nearly 4 decades at the Royal Dutch Shell Group.
Which is a massive organization.
Massive. He eventually became their group planning coordinator. And during his tenure, he started looking past, the standard quarterly profits.
Mm-hmm.
He started investigating the actual biological life expectancy of corporations.
And the statistics he uncovered, they really just dismantled the entire illusion of corporate invincibility.
They really do. Like, what did he actually find about their lifespan?
Well, Geus found that the average life expectancy of a massive multinational corporation, we are talking about a Fortune 500 level entity here.
Right, the big ones.
Yeah, it's only 40 to 50 years.
Wow.
And if you zoom out and look at the overall average corporate life expectancy across all businesses, it plummets to a mere 12 and a half years.
Wait, 12 and a half years? That's nothing.
It is not.
I mean, we walk past these towering corporate headquarters, these massive glass monoliths, and we just assume they are permanent fixtures of society.
Right, like they'll be there forever.
But they're incredibly fragile. Geus actually noted that by 1983, a full 1/3 of the companies that made up the 1970 Fortune 500 had simply vanished.
Just gone.
Gone.
Oh.
They were acquired, broken into pieces, or just entirely dead.
And Geus attributed this endemic systemic failure to that specific pathology we mentioned, mechanistic ossification.
So treating the company like a machine.
Exactly. This disease takes root when managers and founders view their organizations purely as economic machines.
Right.
They see the company solely as a mechanism designed for producing goods and money, and they completely ignore what it actually is.
Which is a living, breathing community of human beings.
Exactly.
I used to think of the modern hustle culture as just, well, the reality of doing business. Like, that's just how it is.
Oh, a lot of people think that.
But looking at this research, hustle culture is really just the ultimate toxic symptom of this mechanistic mindset.
It absolutely is, because it demands constant linear mechanical output.
Yes. It treats your energy and the energy of your team like an infinite resource. But let me run an analogy by you just to see if I'm mapping this correctly.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's say I treat my body or my team like a physical car engine.
Okay.
If I run an internal combustion engine in the red line, perpetually, like if I just keep my foot slammed on the accelerator and never let the heat dissipate.
Oh, that's a bad idea.
Right. I don't get infinite speed, do I? Doesn't the engine eventually warp?
Yeah, the oil burns off.
Exactly. The oil burns off, the friction skyrockets, and the whole thing just violently seizes.
It violently seizes because you cannot cheat physics. And you certainly cannot cheat thermodynamics. When you treat a biological system, whether that is your own brain or a company of 5,000 people, like a machine that requires zero recovery, you systematically destroy its metabolic reserve.
Okay, metabolic reserve. Let's unpack that term for a second because it sounds critical to this whole operation.
It is.
In biology, metabolic reserve is essentially the stored energy an organism keeps on hand to survive a sudden crisis, right? Like a bear storing fat for a harsh winter.
Precisely. And in a business context, your metabolic reserve is, well, it's the unallocated mental bandwidth of your employees.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
It is the spare cash in the bank. It is the institutional knowledge held by veteran staff who actually have the time to mentor newer employees.
Right, because they aren't just scrambling to hit a quota.
Exactly. When you run the engine in the red line, you burn through all of that. Which leads us directly to the ultimate formula for corporate destruction.
Geus's law.
Geus law.
This law is terrifying because of how simple it is. I mean, it is essentially a 3-step guide on how to demolish a perfectly healthy company in just 12 months.
Yep. Step 1, you declare that the primary overriding goal of the organization is a specific return on capital.
So you make money the sole metric of your existence.
Exactly. Then, step 2, you develop an aggressive action plan to trim assets across the board to meet that specific financial goal.
Just cutting everything to the bone.
Right. And then step 3, you stick rigidly to the plan, regardless of what feedback the environment gives you.
And what happens under the surface there? I mean, if I'm laying off my research and development team or cutting back on employee recovery time just to hit a quarterly financial target, I might look profitable on paper for a few months.
Sure, short term.
But I am stripping away the human capital. I am torching the metabolic reserve.
You are. And by executing Geus's law, you take what was a flowing, dynamic organization and you turn it into a stagnant puddle.
The puddle pathology.
Yes. This is the puddle pathology.
I really love this imagery. Because a puddle might look deep for a moment after a heavy rainstorm, right? But it has no fresh inflow, and there's no current. It is completely closed off from its environment.
And what happens when the sun comes out?
The moment the pressure turns up, that puddle simply evaporates. It leaves nothing behind.
Exactly. Which means we need to shift our focus from the disease to the cure.
Let's do it.
If viewing your business or your career as a rigid machine guarantees failure in a high-friction, volatile environment,
which it does,
what is the alternative? The answer lies in looking at nature.
Nature.
Yeah, nature has successfully sustained life on this planet for 3.8 billion years. It has navigated asteroid impacts, ice ages, massive environmental shifts.
So it's got a pretty good track record.
Right. Nature is the ultimate battle-tested blueprint for survival.
Which brings us to the antidote to the puddle pathology, the river company.
Yes.
If the puddle is stagnant and vulnerable, the river is a permanent feature of the landscape. Come a heavy rain, a river might swell. Come a drought, it might shrink a bit. But it takes a cataclysmic, prolonged event for a river to actually disappear. It carves out the canyon.
And if you look closely at a river, the individual drops of water within it are highly turbulent. They are constantly changing. New water drops succeed old ones, moving rapidly through the system. In an organization, those drops of water represent the individual employees, the current projects, the daily tasks.
So they are in a state of constant flux.
Exactly. But the river itself, the living community, the core entity that flows, adapts, and survives for millennia.
It's a self-perpetuating community. And, this isn't just some abstract theory. Geus's team at Shell actually went looking for real-world river companies.
They did. They went hunting for organizations that had survived not just for a few decades, but for centuries.
And they found them, didn't they?
They found incredible examples of these centenarians. For instance, the Scandinavian company Stora, which has roots going all the way back to the year 1288, or the Sumitomo Group in Japan.
1288, that is wild.
I know. These are entities that have outlasted empires, world wars, and total economic paradigm shifts.
So if I am trying to build something that lasts, whether that is a resilient freelance career or a massive agency, how do I emulate a company that has been alive since 1288?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. Like, what did the Royal Dutch Shell team find that these ancient river companies actually have in common?
Well, they isolated 4 specific traits of longevity.
Okay, let's go through them.
The first trait is that they are highly sensitive to their environment. They have their feelers out constantly.
So they aren't just ignoring the outside world.
Exactly. They do not isolate themselves in an ivory tower of corporate bureaucracy. They are intimately connected to the shifting realities of their ecosystem.
Which allows them to adapt long before a crisis becomes lethal.
Exactly.
That makes total sense. I mean, Stora started out mining copper, And over centuries, they transitioned to forestry and then to paper products.
Yeah, they listen to the environment.
But that raises a massive question for me. If a company is constantly reacting to the environment, changing its products, and swapping out its drops of water, how does it not lose its soul? How does it not just dissolve into chaos?
That is exactly where the second trait comes in. They are incredibly cohesive, with a strong sense of identity.
Identity.
They know exactly who is us, no matter how diverse the workforce becomes or how radically the specific products change over the centuries.
Yeah.
There is a core set of shared values that holds the community together. The outer edges adapt to the environment, but the core identity remains unshakable.
Okay, so sensitivity and cohesion. But let's look at the third trait, because I really have to push back on this one.
Go for it.
The research states that these long-lasting companies are, well, tolerant.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, when I hear the word tolerance in a modern business context, it sounds incredibly fluffy.
Oh, like sanitized corporate speak.
Yeah, it sounds like, oh, we just need to be more tolerant of each other's feelings during the trust falls at the corporate retreat.
Right.
How does tolerance help a company survive a ruthless, hyper-competitive economic market? It doesn't track for me.
Well, it is a vital distinction to make, and it is entirely different from the modern social definition you're thinking of.
Okay, so what does it mean then? In evolutionary biology and complex adaptive systems, tolerance is not about being nice. Tolerance is about allowing for mutations.
Mutations.
Yes, it is about decentralizing control so that experiments can happen at the edges of the organization.
Okay, that's interesting.
It is the capacity to embrace what the Boston Consulting Group calls messy management.
Messy management. Okay, walk me through the mechanism of that, because traditionally, management is all about keeping things perfectly tidy and predictable.
Exactly. In a rigid, mechanistic company, variance is treated as an error that must be eradicated immediately.
Right. Everything has to be standard operating procedure.
But in a living biological system, variance is the raw material of evolution.
Wow.
Tolerance means you give your teams the margin to tinker, to make mistakes, and to explore the fringes of the market.
So you actually tolerate a certain level of inefficiency.
You tolerate inefficiency and chaos because that is exactly where innovation is born. An organism survives by integrating the unexpected.
That makes so much sense.
Right. If you have zero tolerance for deviation, you lose your ability to mutate when your environment inevitably changes.
That changes the whole perspective.
Yeah.
The rigid machine shatters under new pressure, but the tolerant organism mutates and adapts.
Exactly. It is biomimetic adaptation in real time.
And to afford that kind of messy experimental mutation, you need resources, which perfectly bridges us to the fourth trait.
Yes, the fourth trait. They are conservative in financing.
So they don't over-leverage themselves.
Not at all. They do not over-leverage themselves to the point of extreme fragility. They retain a massive metabolic reserve.
Spare cash, extra resources.
Exactly. So that when the environment turns hostile, they have the stored energy to survive the drought.
They never have to resort to Geus's law.
Nope. They never have to gut their own human capital just to appease a short-term financial metric.
All of this points to the overarching discipline of biomimicry, doesn't it?
It really does.
Bios meaning life, and mimesis meaning to imitate. Biomimicry is the practice of utilizing nature's 3.8 billion years of research and development to solve complex human problems.
And when we apply biomimicry to the concept of business, we arrive at a profound, almost uncomfortable realization about profit.
Oh, this is the big one. Let's get into it.
Profit is absolutely necessary, but the biological view fundamentally shifts its position in the hierarchy of purpose.
How so?
Well, in nature, oxygen is required for a biological organism to survive. If you stop breathing, you die.
Clearly.
But breathing oxygen is not the purpose of the organism's existence.
Oh, wow. That is the ultimate paradigm shift. A machine exists solely to produce a specific output, like to produce money.
Right.
But an organism exists to live, to fulfill its potential, and to perpetuate its community. Profit is just the oxygen that allows the river company to keep flowing and carving its path.
Exactly. So the critical question for the clinic today is this. How do we actively transition a patient from a failing mechanical state to a thriving organic state?
This is where we implement the recovery protocol. We have to look at the structural differences between mechanistic and organic models.
Drawing heavily on the foundational research of Tom Burns and George Stalker.
Right, let's break down that anatomy. Mechanistic structures are what most of us grew up with.
Yeah, it's what we picture when we think of a traditional business.
They are tall, heavily centralized hierarchies. They rely on incredibly strict rules, specialized rules, and thick manuals of standard operating procedures.
And to be fair, Burns and Stalker noted that mechanistic structures are actually highly effective if and only if you are operating in a highly stable, completely predictable environment.
That is the critical caveat. Like if you were running a 1950s assembly line, where the inputs never change, the technology is static, and the outputs are guaranteed to sell to a predictable consumer base, a mechanistic bureaucracy works perfectly.
But the modern bioeconomy is anything but stable.
Not even close.
We are living in an era of exponential technological change, rapid market shifts, and immense unpredictable complexity.
And in a volatile, complex environment, clinging to a mechanistic structure is literally a death sentence. That is where you need an organic structure.
So what does that look like?
Organic organizations are flat. They are highly decentralized. They do not rely on rigid top-down orders coming from an isolated executive suite.
Right.
Instead, they rely on lateral communication and continuous real-time learning loops.
In an organic structure, power and decision-making are pushed out to the very edges of the organization, right? Closer to where the actual environmental changes are happening.
Exactly. It relies on shared principles and a cohesive identity, rather than a rigid instruction manual.
So for you listening to this session, here's the immediate structural shift you must make in your own life and work.
You have to stop trying to operate as a specialized, rigid machine executor.
Yes.
Whether you are running a massive team or you are a solopreneur managing your own daily workflow, the mechanistic approach is actively failing you.
It really is.
I know I have fallen into this trap myself, honestly. Writing out these massive, rigid to-do lists, assuming I could just execute them flawlessly like a robot.
Ignoring your own energy levels.
Completely ignoring changing circumstances. Just forcing it.
If you are relying on a finite battery of willpower and raw motivation to force yourself through a rigid, high-friction routine, you are mathematically guaranteeing your own failure.
It's just true. Willpower is not a sustainable fuel source.
No.
It is easily depleted, and when it runs out, the engine seizes.
So what do they need to do instead?
You must build systems that breathe. You must transition your fundamental role. Think about it. The builder of a machine acts like a mechanic. Forcing parts together, tightening bolts, trying to control and micromanage every single micro movement.
Right.
But the leader of a living system must become a gardener.
I think that is a beautiful way to visualize it. A gardener does not force a plant to grow by grabbing its leaves and pulling upward.
No, that would just rip it out of the ground.
Okay. Exactly. A gardener prepares the soil, plants the seeds of innovation, ensures there is a steady flow of nutrients, and allows the biological process to unfold naturally.
They curate what naturally grows, and they prune what doesn't.
You engineer the environment, you establish the continuous feedback loops, and you rely on the natural adaptive momentum of the system rather than your own raw, white-knuckled motivation.
You let the organism learn to flow again. You stop evaporating like a stagnant puddle, and you start carving out the landscape like a permanent river.
It is the ultimate shift from managing for static short-term efficiency to managing for long-term evolutionary resilience.
And with that, I am officially calling this operation a success.
I agree.
The cognitive fracture we identified has been stabilized. The puddle pathology has been successfully cured.
We have effectively replaced your mechanistic ossification with the blueprints for biomimetic adaptation.
You are officially discharged from week 1.
The patient is stabilized and the system is flowing normally.
But I need you to listen to me very carefully right now.
What's wrong?
The clinic never sleeps. Our biological sensors have just tripped. As we stabilized your immediate environment, the monitors detected a new, highly contagious pathogen accelerating toward the market.
Oh no, it is a severe mutation. We are looking at a disease of false momentum.
It's a form of cognitive paralysis that attacks the executive function, forcing builders to stick blindly to rigid 5-year plans while their entire ecosystem burns around them.
We are classifying this new threat as evolutionary atrophy, leading directly to a condition known as the stasis trap.
Next week, we will have to scrub right back in to confront this pathogen before it completely paralyzes your ability to move forward.
The illusion of speed is going to be the most dangerous symptom to diagnose in the coming session.
So as you leave the clinic today, I want to leave you with one chilling question to ponder before our next operation begins.
Listen closely.
If you are a baseline human trying to survive in a hyper-processed economy, relying entirely on the cheap dopamine of constant motion, are you already suffering from evolutionary atrophy without even knowing it?
We will see you back in the operating room.
Access your recovery protocols at drchicks.com. Session concluded.